Thank you Derp and RDK for becoming my latest loyal nerds. You guys are awesome. My nerds, my beautiful nerds, we need to talk about this guy right here. The Retroid Pocket Classic. And it's perhaps one of the best handhelds for a lot of people, but not for me, and I'm gonna tell you why. In fact, this video is me half complaining about this thing, half praising it, in an effort to have you understand whether or not you resonate with this handheld. Because I'm reading the comments, I know that a lot of my beautiful nerds, they are heathens, they don't understand the value of a handheld having sticks, and this one does not have sticks. A lot of people, they love this. So, without further ado, and the disclaimer, nobody saw this video beforehand, I bought this with my own money, so there's no influence here, there's no shilling going on, like nobody pays me to be a shill. Maybe companies should step up their game and try to pay me to be a shill, but unfortunately I think I have too big of a mouth for them to even bother. So, coming back to the Retroid Pocket Classic, my dear nerds, before I jump into it, let's just look at what we're dealing here. It looks like a Game Boy, it has 6 buttons, which is good. In case you hate this, Retroid also has a few versions that have 4 buttons. You see here, 4 buttons. But, in my humble Vlad Nerd opinion, since they are the same price, why wouldn't you get the 6 button version? It's nerd math, it's basically 2 buttons for free. You know what I mean? You're leaving 2 buttons on the table if you don't get this version. What you have here is a Snapdragon, let me check the freaking papers, I always forget this. We have Snapdragon G1, G2. This is one of the newer gaming-oriented type of SoCs that Qualcomm is trying to promote. And this is the more entry-level one. But the good thing about this SoC is that it's 4 nanometers, meaning that it is very power efficient, it sips energy. So in a combination with a handheld that doesn't have sticks, which means it will be more or less optimized for the lower generations of consoles like SNES, NES, GBA, all that good stuff, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Colors, then the SoC in this thing, coupled with the 5000 milliamp battery, should last you a freaking eternity, which is good. People love big battery life. No, people love big battery lives, and and they cannot lie. Complaint number 1 is this back. Do you see this little lie right here? When I first saw this back, I was like, neat! They have a removable plastic back cover for the battery. No, this is a lie. This is just an indent. This is just for them to make you feel as if this is more retro than it actually is. Now, bear in mind, this is a non-issue because you can easily take the whole plastic back off and change the battery if you need to. Or you can just send it to Retroid in case you have a spicy pillow in the future, but I doubt this will be the case with this one. So, coming back to it, we have a front-firing speaker, which is always good. We have 6 buttons, which is still, it's better to have more buttons than less buttons, and this is actually the perfect layout for Sega Saturn. Now bear in mind, I almost never played Sega Saturn, I skipped that console generation as a kid, so I don't really have nostalgia with that. I just bought this because I'm a cheapskate. Why would you pay for less buttons? You know? I'm gonna die on this hill, like, more buttons for the same price, please. And coming back to the spec sheet here, there's 2 SKUs for this handheld. There's the one with the 6 gigs of RAM and the 4 gigs of RAM. But the problem is that the 4 gigs of RAM and the 64 gig of storage one, well, first of all, it's sold out, But second of all, the higher tier, the one with 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, is just $10 more. And I understand that for a lot of people, paying extra for basically the same processing power isn't really a good deal. But I would say you get a lot for those extra $10. Come on, double the storage, 50% more RAM. But that's one of my problems with this. Actually, I wouldn't call it a problem, more like a complaint. I think this handheld is a bit overpowered. Yeah, I said it, overpowered, even though it has an entry-level SoC. Hear me out, this has a beautiful OLED screen that's almost 1:1, right? But you are condemned to playing more or less the 16-bit and 32-bit era of games simply because you don't have sticks. In the absence of proper input methods like sticks, you need to really think about how you're gonna use that power. In this case, people can tell me, Vlad, you actually can use that extra power. Think of shaders. Shaders can be very performance taxing, that extra headroom could be used for shaders. And I say, yeah, kind of, but a lot of people don't use them. I think this handheld could have had a less powerful SoC, and maybe the price could have been a bit lower. And now that I'm nitpicking on it, I promise I'm gonna get to the good sides. I'm mixing it up in this video. I also don't think that the Retroid Pocket Classic is necessarily deserving of active cooling. Don't get me wrong, it's good that it has it. A lot of people are happy with this. My question is why? You're gonna run potatoes on this thing. No, you're gonna run games that are maybe PlayStation 1 and below. You're not gonna run Android games on it, and I'm gonna show you why. You see, let us go, my dear nerd, to... I uninstalled them. Wait just a second. Let's take Limbo as a good example, my dear nerds. You'd think you can play this game pretty well on the Retroid Pocket Classic because it's a 2D platformer, you don't have any complicated controls. Why would you need sticks for this? Well, the thing is that the game is programmed to be controlled by a stick, so if I use the D-pad, nothing happens. The game simply ignores it. Of course, the rest of the buttons work, like I'm jumping. Look, I'm a very good jumper in this game, but I can't seem to move unless I use the touch screen, and this is just as clunky as it looks, my dear nerds. A smartphone gives a way better experience than this. However, this goes away very quickly when you play an actual retro game. It looks freaking fabulous, and this one plays beautifully and looks beautifully, works perfectly actually. Which one is... there's my sword. Freaking annoying mosquito birds. I really hate them. I always hated this level and these birds in Disney's Hercules for my entire freaking life. Game Boy games, or in this case a Game Boy Color game, also looks amazing. You can just see the pixels there. It feels natural. These games feel like they were designed for such a device, and this OLED screen just brings every little game here to life. You get to appreciate the pixel art, you get to appreciate the sprites. It's like you get to see a whole other color with your eyes, These old games are simply experienced differently on an OLED screen like this. And the fact that this looks like a classic Game Boy really, really adds to that feeling. I genuinely love playing retro games on this, and by retro, again, I mean PlayStation 1 and below. However, my dear nerds, this is put in a box. You see, I truly think it has the necessary horsepower where it could have played a bit of stretched out PSP like I love. A PSP, if you stretch that 16:9 to 1:1, I'm gonna upset so many people with this. It's a vibe, you know, but you can also probably play a bit of other games that would require sticks, a bit of Dreamcast, a bit of N64, especially N64. But because of the lack of input, you get to experience some games in a very, very high quality manner, while other games, well, you just can't. So I would actually say that now that we have a Retroid Pocket Mini version 2, which shares the same screen with this, you need to search deep in your heart. Which kind of nerd are you? Are you the one that only enjoys actual super retro games? Now, depending on your age, PlayStation 2, heck, Nintendo Switch might be retro for you, or you might be a person near my age where retro means SNES and below. For that, this is a very good handheld. Now, you are sacrificing quite a bit, you know, this ain't no Mio Mini, it's quite a chunker, it has a specific amount of size to it, you won't be able to carry this in your front pocket. However, it does give you a nice experience for this specific subset of games. So, if you want to play on a pocketable handheld, PlayStation 2, get yourself a version 2 Retroid Pocket Mini. In fact, I'm gonna link it in the video description along with this one. Both of them will be in the video description because you need to have choice. That one has sticks, that one has the same screen, that one basically has PlayStation 2 and other consoles unlocked on it. Whereas this Retroid Pocket Classic I would best describe as not a Swiss army knife, but more like a specialized tool. Don't expect to play, in my opinion, any more than what would you play on, let me think, on a Mio Mini Plus or a normal Mio Mini. But expect them to play in the best, highest quality manner in which you could experience those games. There's no game that you wouldn't be able to play from those generations of consoles on this or handhelds. There simply isn't. You can use basically any shader, think CRT shaders. I love some CRT shaders, those are my jam, and this SoC basically can use any of them without stuttering. For example, this is Batman Return of the Joker on NES with the new Pixie shader, and I think it just looks marvelous. I don't know if this gets conveyed on camera, but there's the exact amount of motion blur that gets applied to the sprites, just like we used to have on the old CRT TVs back in the day. And there's scan lines here, and there's just the right amount of scanline interference that it really takes you back. I would actually say, and I know a lot of you beautiful nerds don't agree with this, but a lot of retro games are just experienced better when you use shaders. I know integer scaling, people want accuracy, like the image to be as accurate as possible. I would like to remind all of you fine nerds that when you were a kid, you didn't give a hoot about this. When you were a kid, you just used to play it, and the mission that we have right now in our old age is to recreate the feeling that we had as kids. In my own humble opinion, that's why I stretch to fit games as well. It's not about accuracy, it's about peak enjoyment. And the way in which we remember experiencing those games, that's what we need to recreate through these handhelds that we buy. So, I truly think that for the right kind of nerd, this is one of the best handhelds that they can buy. It is not for me though. I love a handheld with sticks. I love a handheld with as many input methods as possible. I would want something like the Retroid Pocket Flip 2 with a tiny touchpad in the middle as well. I would love to have as many input methods as possible. Give me the Swiss army knife of handhelds and I'm a happy nerd. However, like I said, A lot of you sinners want authenticity, and for that, well, this is pulling on those nostalgia strings immensely, and you can configure it in such a way that when you exit or enter a game, it automatically saves the state and loads the state so that you have that Onion OS kind of seamlessness between games that I used to love on the Mio Mini as well. So with the power of Android, you really have a ton of flexibility here if you configure this right. Should I recommend this? Do I recommend this? Only if you're the kind of person that resonated with what I said earlier. A lot of people, a lot of us in this community, we are different. My standards make some people cringe. They're like, Vlad, you and your stretch too fit, it's a sin. My opinion is we should all just have fun. If this kind of accurate handheld, which isn't a Swiss Army knife, is what you feel you want, then go for this. The link is in the video description. However, if you want something with sticks, again, like the Retroid Pocket Mini version 2, there's links to that as well. At the end of the day, I can't answer this question for you. I can't answer whether or not this is better or worse than what. Then what? Then the Linux handhelds, of course it's better. The screen alone makes it better. The lack of input methods like sticks, for me, doesn't make it better than even the Retroid Pocket Mini or even the Anbernic handhelds with sticks that also have Android. But again, don't listen to me on this. You know what resonates with you. I know what resonates with me. I want you to like if I am to dissect my brain, what am I trying to achieve here? I'm trying to have you take a good choice for yourself. This might not be a good choice for me, but this might make a lot of people happy. And those people, well, they should be happy because heck knows we have a lot of other problems all around us. Our little sphere, our little hobby bubble here should at least be maximized for maximum enjoyment and maximum dopamine. But yeah, these are my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think. Buy this if you intend to play the same things that you would play on a Mio Mini, Mio Mini Plus, Anbernic RG35XX Plus, and that style of vertical handhelds. You get the gist of what I'm saying. This is the best equipment for old games. That's kind of it. But it's horrible at anything with sticks. You know, you choose whether or not this works for you. I know there's a lot of you who'd love this. Anyway, leave your comments for me in the comment section. I read all of them. I am curious what you think about this. Is this for you? Is the classic something you want to avoid? Is it something that you think is maybe the handheld you've been waiting for? There's a lot of possible answers here. I want you to tell me what you think. I really didn't know how to approach this video, so it's an open-ended question. I want to hear your responses. I love you very much, my nerd, and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye.